Greetings! Welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by King Pilled. Do me a favor and hit the like button on your way in, or hit retweet on the tweet if you're watching this on Twitter. Appreciate those of you who already did. Got a banger lined up for you guys, and everything's all lined up for you for your whole evening. Just looking to try to dial this show in about 2 hours. Should wrap up right about 7 p.m. Central Time, which is the perfect time for you to go over to Counterflow, as Buck is premiering the second half of his conversation with Stormy Waters. The premiere will be going live at 7 p.m. I tried to put the redirect in here, but Buck has not allowed me. He needs to go into his community settings and edit redirect permissions. So Buck, if you're listening and you want me to redirect over, then go fix that for me. And I'll redirect everyone directly to you. Otherwise, go to Counterflow on YouTube, Counterflow with Buck Johnson, and you should definitely listen to the second half. The first half of the conversation with Stormy was very good, dropped last week, talking about the coming economic crisis of 2025. And I hear tell that the second half of the conversation gets very interesting. They get into talking about spirituality and consciousness and such things. So I'm looking forward to listening to that here later this evening. We're supposed to get our first freeze of the year. It was 80 degrees yesterday. It was like 55 for a few days in a row before that. Today, I think it got up to 70-ish, and then it's supposed to get down into the 30s tonight. In Texas, what's going on? It actually does get pretty cold in Texas here in the winters sometimes. I think the last couple of years it's dropped down into the teens a few times, which is kind of crazy to think about. I never would have fathomed that you could get weather in the teens in not just Texas, but South Central Texas. But such things are possible. Anyways, right after the Bucks show, which is right after the ASTROLABE, then you can waddle yourself on over to the Mir and Chuck Now YouTube channel, and you can go watch a goat stream with good friend of the show, Jason Miranchuk. So your whole evening is all lined up for you. You can't complain about not having any good content to watch. I've got some bangers for you here today. We're gonna supposedly the manifesto for Luigi Mangione. I thought about this after I put the title Luigi Mangione's Manifesto. My autism is chirping at me, and I should have said something like the manifesto or the Luigi Mangione Manifesto. The quotes Luigi Mangione, because I don't think that anything is as we're being told to believe it is. I actually got I've got the magnum opus of schizo threads for you guys here in a little bit on the Luigi Mangione subject. We're also going to talk a little bit about Bank of England stuff. We're going to talk some Bitcoin stuff, some Doge stuff, and then some Neotrads stuff. So let's get her started. Do me a favor, hit the like button. We do accept super chats. So if you like what we're doing here, you want to support the show, you can send a super chat, or you can become a channel member of the King Pilled, only $5 a month. There's also a link in the bottom for the Buy Me a Coffee if you want to just send some cash to me directly. buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. You can buy me, I think it's buy me a beer technically, but I don't drink very much beer. So I have to tell you that if you buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com, it is very likely not going to get spent on beer. Unless you tell me explicitly this money must be spent on beer, it's probably going to get spent on something else. Anyways, we appreciate all of you who support, especially as we navigate this crisis of the first copyright strike on the channel. Probably not the last. I'm going to say I can't imagine that I'm going to keep doing the show as I'm doing it and not wind up getting another copyright strike. But I'm not going to change the way that I'm doing the show. Because ultimately, if YouTube wants to run me off their platform, then I am happy to go to some other platform. For now, YouTube's the place to be, but I don't think it's going to be that way for a long time. All right, let us get jamming here, and I'm going to start off with we may end up winding up introducing a new concept for the show, for a segment on the show, which is clips sent to me by Amy. Maybe it's like our wife jack segment. Amy's very good at sending me clips. They're nearly always on Instagram because she is the queen of Instagram, unsurprisingly. But I've got a backlog, honestly. And when she sends me some, then she'll ask me. She'll be like, you going to do that clip I sent you? You going to put that on the show today? Or did you play? I wasn't able to watch the show. Did you play the clip I sent you? And I'm always, oh man, I forgot. because I don't use Instagram, so it doesn't fall into my workflow naturally. But maybe if I make this an actual segment consistently, then I can be more consistent about keeping my wife happy with the clips that she sends me. She's a real life wife jack meme, and I absolutely adore her. Which also reminds me, I have to make an admission. I showed you guys the shirt that I was wearing yesterday, the Trump shirt. It's a Daddy's Home, him in front of the White House. Awesome shirt. I credited my little sister with giving me that gift for my birthday. And it turns out it was a joint gift. It was from my sister and my wife, and I made the horrifying mistake of not crediting my wife for a gift she participated in getting for me. I learned that yesterday evening after the show. So my bad, mea culpa issued here. Shout out to my wife for participating in getting me that awesome shirt. I did not wear it 2 days in a row, although I thought about it. All right, let's get this going here. So we've got a young man here participating in hooliganry, and there's a place for this. I like this. I like seeing young guys engaged in harmless hooliganry like this. This is the spirit of white boy summer, ever present.
Guess where I am? The top of the mall Christmas tree. I don't know if you knew this, but you could actually climb up these. And we got security. Right there.
He's a regular James Bond.
It's hot, but I have high ground.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop.
I'm going to take my wife sending me this as an admission that she won't be mad when my son inevitably is found climbing in a mall Christmas tree. The fact that she hasn't commented yet makes me think she's probably not listening right now, and she's not going to go back and listen later. So the secret is safe between us. This one here I found on my own. I found this one laying in bed last night. I was scrolling for content before I fell asleep, and this one, rule number 1: never skip Arabic prank videos. It's been a long time since I had a laugh as satisfying as the laugh that I laughed last night watching this one. You can see it coming. It takes you a minute, but you can see exactly what's coming. And I was almost in tears laughing before we actually got to the payoff. And it just, I'll just play it for you guys. You guys are going to like this one.
اخبارك تمام طيب شوف شوف والله العظيم شبل والله العظيم انه شبل والله العظيم انه شبل شوف شو
Oh, where was it? This moment. Oh, man. See him sitting here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, man. My abs hurt this morning from just from as hard as I was laughing last night, and I just made them hurt even more. Oh, man. Love a good prank video. Okay, let's get a little wholesome content. Hold on a sec. Yes, this one. Look at these young lads. 2 kids offering to shovel a driveway for $20.
Oh, hi. Do you want us to shovel your driveway for $20? Yeah. Yes, we do. Sorry, I'm just gonna block her from the thing. Okay, I'll get you $20 right now, but we have to leave. So I'll give you the money if you can shovel it. Then we'll be back in an hour. Okay? Okay. Okay. 1 second. What do you give cash? It's like $10 each. Yeah. $10 each. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
We're gonna be fucking rich.
Oh, you awesome. No wonder you're growing. All people rich. They'll pay us like, I want to shovel. I don't want some money. It's okay. I don't want to shovel it. I'm rich. I'm rich. Look for our paper bags. All our money to be carrying up on. We're rich. We're finding the money. Jiggle. It's cool. You should see my bank account. I heard I have like $6,000 in there. What? Yeah. You should just keep saving until you are like 16 and then you buy a car. Oh, I don't know. You need to buy a really short car though, because you're really short. Oh, a Lamborghini is good for me. Lamborghinis are short. And don't move to like oh, thank you so much. No problem. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Oh, dude, thank you. Now it's doing a really good job because it's been first.
Oh, just incredibly wholesome, man. Now let's do a really good job because they paid us first. Shout out to these young lads. They just discovered a life hack. People will literally give you money for doing things they don't want to do. Appreciate you, Well Emmanuel. Member for 12 months. I think Well Emmanuel might have been the first member. One of the first members. He's been a member of the King Pill for 12 months. Appreciate your support, buddy. Okay, so there's all kinds of stuff going on with Luigi Mangione now, and I'm very much, I'd say, probably 80% in the camp that this is some kind of augmented reality game. This is some next level sort of psyop, because I was on the phone with Cooper for a couple hours today as we were discussing this and like thinking about all the different angles and possibilities, and I'm not going to speculate on it here on this show for now because I haven't landed on anything conclusive. There's a whole bunch of different things that could be at play here, and once you start asking cui bono, the answers aren't entirely clear. There's lots of easy narratives that people just kind of want to default to, and none of them feel particularly satisfying. But there are some interesting points here. So this first one, curious connection. UHC murder suspect Luigi Mangione's developer grandfather was close allies with Nancy Pelosi's father, Baltimore Mayor Thomas D'Alessandro. It says the real key to understanding Mr. Mangione, says former Baltimore Mayor Thomas J. D'Alessandro III, is to look at his family, his wife Mary, to whom he's devoted, and the 5 sons and 5 daughters to whom he is gradually turning over his business. Nick Mangione is foremost identified as a family man, Mr. D'Alessandro says. That's his calling card. Even before he became a successful businessman, he's maybe a little rough around the edges, maybe with an aggressive personality, but a man with a big heart. He earned his success the hard way. Born in Baltimore's Little Italy, Mr. Mangione spent his first 8 years in a one-room flat with an outdoor privy until his family moved several blocks north to a 3-story row house with 2 other families in the 800 block of Asquith Street. And why this is relevant, I don't think there was something under here. Yeah. Why this is relevant is because rumor has it that CEO, the United Healthcare CEO, was, which to be clear, I've seen some confusion on this. He was not the United Health Group CEO, which would be like the real H&IC for the United Health brand. He was the CEO of United Healthcare, which was a subsidiary of the larger thing. So this wasn't like the real big guy at the top. He was the CEO, but he was a smaller CEO. And it's kind of funny. People were pointing out the irony here that CEO apparently was an Iowa boy. He was like corn-fed Iowa boy who came up through public high school and basically like blue-collar guy who worked his way up to CEO. And then Mangione, the ostensible assassin, like we're talking on the narrative level here, the story that's being told. The assassin is an Ivy League private school, super wealthy family, political connections. So kind of like this is part of why the story just doesn't completely doesn't completely bear out because you've got it mixes up the different class warfare angles, and you could say, "Oh, this is just because it's the deep state, it's the cabal, it's the CIA, and they're trying to foment race war, they're trying to foment class war." None of those things, if you start running down each of them, none of them bears out really cleanly. But anyway, so back to this guy who was assassinated. Supposedly, he was. I've bookmarked a really, really long thread that goes through all the timeline of this, but I haven't read through it yet. But supposedly, he was going to be. What's the term I'm looking for here? Giving testimony in. He was being subpoenaed. He was going to be giving testimony on to the DOJ on insider trading, which has, of course, a very close relationship to. Sorry, I got to take my socks off. Has a very close relationship to Nancy Pelosi. So the fact that his family, that the supposed shooter, his family was close with Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy Pelosi was potentially going to be implicated in some way in the testimony of this guy, and that guy gets whacked. Well, that adds to the narrative in kind of an interesting way. And then Mangione left a manifesto. So supposedly, and I haven't been able to get all the details of the story straight here, which I think is part of the point. Supposedly, the story is that he did this shooting, like very well planned out, very orchestrated, coordinated event. He pulls off this shooting using a ghost gun and leaves these shell casings at the scene, disappears on a bike, and just kind of vanishes. Very well planned out, like going to the right place where there's lots of foot traffic, so it's hard to identify a single person, but there's no cameras in Central Park. And so he disappears into Central Park. Then he leaves. He stashes this backpack that's full of Monopoly money. Then he shows up 5 days later in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's where he has the murder weapon and the fake ID that he used and the manifesto printed off with him. I don't know about you guys, but I don't tend to carry my manifestos around with me in physical paper copy. You just kind of why I got a smartphone. I can keep my manifestos on there. So it's like none of these details square up with any sort of super coherent narrative. But then apparently there's a manifesto that he typed up on Substack that's posted on Substack, which is what I've got here. But then I saw another report that Ken Klippenstein, shitlib extraordinaire on Twitter, got a copy of an additional part of his manifesto, got access to it somehow. And so what he had with him printed off was not exactly one-to-one with what was posted on. Anyway, whatever. This whole story just stinks to high heaven, and there's something else going on. It's not anywhere near as simple as all the nice little stories that everyone wants to tell you it is. But this manifesto that he wrote is very interesting. That was written in his name, whether he wrote it or not. So I'm just going to read through it for you guys here because you probably won't get most people reading it to you. So it's titled "The Allopathic Complex and Its Consequences." Obviously a reference to Uncle Ted. And it says, Luigi Mangione's last words. "The Second Amendment means I am my own chief executive and commander-in-chief of my own military. I authorize my own act of self-defense in response to a hostile entity making war on me and my family." Okay, so we're starting off with cringe Redditor speak. Nelson Mandela says no form of violence, and here violence is misspelled. There's two O's instead of an L. So violence can be excused. Nelson Mandela, the terrorist, says no form of violence can be excused. Camus says it's all the same whether you live or die or have a cup of coffee. MLK says violence never brings permanent peace. Gandhi says that nonviolence is the mightiest power available to mankind. Okay, so we're deep into the Reddit speak. This sounds like it was written by a millennial woman at an NGO. That's who they tell you are heroes. That's who our revolutionaries are. Yet is that not capitalistic? Nonviolence keeps the system working at full speed ahead. Where did it get us? Look in the mirror. Or what did it get us? Look in the mirror. They want us to be nonviolent so that they can grow fat off the blood they take from us. The only way out is through. Not all of us will make it. Each of you is each of us is our own chief executive. You have to decide what you will tolerate. In Gladiator 1, Maximus cuts into the military tattoo that identifies him as part of the Roman legion. We're quoting from movies. As Maximus carves deeper into his own flesh, as his own blood drips down his skin, Maximus smiles and nods yes. The tattoo represents the Emperor, who is God. The God Emperor has made himself part of Maximus's own flesh. The only way to destroy the Emperor is to destroy himself. Maximus smiles through the pain because he knows it is worth it. These might be my last words. I don't know when they will come for me. I will resist them at any cost. That's why I smile through the pain. So this just sounds like complete fed slop. Now there's a line break, a section break, and he tells a story about his mom. They diagnosed my mother with severe neuropathy when she was 41 years old. She said it started 10 years before that with burning sensations in her feet and occasional sharp stabbing pains. At first, the pain would last a few moments, then fade to tingling, then numbness, then fade to nothing a few days later. All right, I'm going to pull this up on my phone because it's just way too small on my screen, and I can't read it well without stumbling through all of this. So bear with me just a second. Here it is. All right. The first time the pain came, she ignored it. Then it came a couple times a year, and she ignored it. Then every couple months. Then a couple times a month. Then a couple times a week. At that point, by the time the tingling faded to numbness, the pain would start and the discomfort was constant. At that point, even going from the couch to the kitchen to make her own lunch became a major endeavor. She started with ibuprofen until the stomach aches and acid reflux made her switch to acetaminophen. Then the headaches and barely sleeping made her switch back to ibuprofen. The first doctor said it was psychosomatic. Nothing was wrong. She needed to relax, de-stress, and sleep more. The second doctor said it was a compressed nerve in her spine. She needed back surgery. It would cost $180,000. Recovery would be 6 months minimum before walking again. 12 months for full potential recovery, and she would never lift more than 10 pounds of weight again. The third doctor performed a nerve conduction study, electromyography, MRI, and blood tests. Each test cost $800 to $1,200. She hit the $6,000 deductible of her United Healthcare plan in October. Then the doctor went on vacation, and my mother wasn't able to resume tests until January when her deductible reset. The test showed severe neuropathy. The $180,000 surgery would have had no effect. So pause here for just a sec. And the costs that are being talked about here, given his family background, it seems kind of strange. And I don't know if it might be discovered that his parents were divorced and his mom didn't really have money, or his dad died, or whatever. There could be more to the story that fleshes that out. But the other thing I'll note is the way that this is written. He has a lot of his writings out there of the Goodreads reviews and stuff that he did, and he has. Now, Pleb Enforcement is saying this manifesto has been debunked. If so, this is something that's happened just within the last couple of hours. I hadn't seen this, and I was just reading about this early this afternoon. And everybody was passing it around as the manifesto. But this would explain why Ken Klippenstein posted that he actually has a manifesto. Waiting for the chat to catch up. Because if it's debunked, then that clears up quite a bit of stuff, actually. Yeah, in the last few hours. Okay, well, then I'm not going to read the rest of it. If it's been debunked already, then it's not worth... Who knows what the actual... who knows what the actual story is, or if this has any relevance to it at all. He goes through this story, tells about his mom and what she went through, or whoever wrote this story about this thing that his mom went through, which is a very compelling case for what the actual insurance company relationship thing is like. But I had a bunch of thoughts on this, but I guess they're no longer relevant if this has actually been debunked. And it's interesting to me that it was able to take off as fast as it was. I'm only here now. It says this is fake. It was written after he was caught. How do you know this? You can go to the site, click it, and see when it was created and posted. It's been taken down already. Okay, so here's the new one that let's see here. What does this say? Here you go. Verified by law enforcement. I don't know why everyone thinks everything they see online is real. You guys may blah, 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 blah. Dude made references in the fake one, not even compatible to the current situation. So this one is the one that I saw that King Klippenstein had tweeted out. So I know this one is real. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This is fairly trivial, some elementary school engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas. It's probably supposed to be strife or trauma, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly numbered 42 in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but it says as, but it's probably supposed to be has our life expectancy? No, the reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal and more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. So this manifesto here makes it clarifies the motivations a lot more than the other one did. It makes sense that the other one was fake. Because this one, I guess this might weight things a little bit more in the direction of, just your standard psyop. But even then, there's so many other aspects of the story that don't stand up entirely just following along with that line of thought. So this is another one that I'm going to say, taking a strong stance one way or the other on it at this point is kind of silly, and let's just watch it bear out. Here is a thread that I do believe is real. And if it's not literally real, it is, you could think of it as like a fable that is real-ish, but it delivers the message. So this person tweeted, "The medical industry needs to be drawn and quartered. For every one person it helps, there are 10,000 people who've had their lives ruined by it. My grandpa is one of them. He's enjoyed good health all his life, eating mostly potatoes, butter, cheese, coffee, milk, sugar, eggs, and salt. At 82, he went in for a regular health checkup in great health, and the doctor found that his blood pressure was slightly high, something that easily could have been caused by nerves or a bad night's sleep. The doctor's orders? Cut out salt. This command would be the first of many commands that would lead to my grandpa's demise. Unsurprisingly, once my grandpa cut out salt, his blood pressure rose dramatically. He started retaining fluid, had vascular leakiness, and suffered from heart palpitations. Now fearful, he goes back to the doctor. Instead of realizing his blunder and his anti-salt recommendation, he prescribes my grandpa blood pressure medicine and water pills for the fluid retention. Now his blood pressure had plummeted to unsafe levels. He now also had to urinate every 15 minutes, every hour of the day, even throughout the night. Now that he wasn't consuming sodium and was excreting precious electrolytes from the urine, his stress hormones were through the roof, and he suffered a minor heart attack. The doctors found that he had a leaky aorta, undoubtedly caused by the effects of aldosterone and cortisol. The doctor's recommendation was to perform open heart surgery and replace it with a pig's. He made it through the surgery, and the leaky aorta was temporarily fixed, but his health had deteriorated in every meaningful way, once a very active man, now bedridden. This would be far from the end of the medical malpractice. After the surgery, the doctors discovered that my grandpa had been taking aspirin every day for the last 40 years. They gave him post-op painkillers and told him to switch to ibuprofen after the prescription ran out. He obeyed. Also, to ease the heart's burden, blood thinners were prescribed to him. I told him of aspirin's blood thinning and heart protective effects, but the doctor warned him against using it because aspirin only has a 15% chance of working, whereas this pharmaceutical has a 90% chance. His vascular integrity had been so compromised now that a tap on the shoulder or a handshake would cause the arteries to burst, and he would bleed uncontrollably, often breaking the skin, where he had arms and legs covered in open, unhealing sores where the flesh would tear off from his bones, and he would bleed ceaselessly for days. I was tending to his wounds, and I rubbed topical K2 into them. The bleeding stopped immediately, and they quickly healed. He told his doctor about the K2, and the doctor told him never to use it again because K2 would cause the blood to clot, increasing your risk of stroke or heart attack. So he's on blood thinners, but don't use K2 because it might cause his blood to clot. My grandpa had gone on like this for a few years, taking several ibuprofen daily per doctor's recommendation. Unfortunately, the ibuprofen only after about a year had melted a hole into his stomach. He was leaking stomach acid into his body. A huge bubble would swell in his skin where the hole was, causing intense pain, and he'd have to manually push the bubble back in under the tissue. The doctor's recommendation was to surgically insert a screen where the hole was to essentially dam the flow. They've discovered tumors in his bladder and kidney, all undoubtedly caused from the elevated stress hormones caused by the reduction of salt. He's still alive, but in just a few short years, his mind has gone from functioning perfectly well to becoming basically demented. He lost 50 pounds during the ordeal and is now gaunt and emaciated. He suffers from severe vertigo and can hardly stand or walk. He's ice cold all the time. Shaking his hand feels like holding the hand of a dead corpse, I suppose, as opposed to a live corpse. Thyroid function and metabolism obviously has come to a halt. His body has become so cold and peripheries so deprived of blood and warmth that a finger oximeter cannot even pick up a reading on tissue oxygenation. I know how to help him, but most of my advice would go against doctor's orders and his medical understanding. I plead with him and his wife, but they're so bought into the lies of the medical establishment, there is little to nothing I can do to help. My grandpa's case is just one of many. The medical establishment must be destroyed. And, as Witt says here, this is what doctors are. And here's the uncomfortable truth underlying the ostensible story that we're being told about Luigi Mangione. That the condition of the medical establishment right now and the abuse that it heaps upon Americans, generally indirectly. This isn't like it's a banality of evil thing where these people aren't there because they're like, oh, let's see how miserable and unhealthy we can make everyone. No, it's just an emergent degenerate incentive network that incentivizes things to get worse and worse and worse. And you know who's paying the price for this more than anybody else? The boomers. The boomers are the ones who are reaching their end of life period where they need the most medical care. They're not tapped into the social networks in a way to be able to understand the complete unsavable corruption of the medical establishment and be aware of alternate developments in medicine and understandings of nutrition and health. So they're the ones who are bearing the brunt of this. They're the ones who, as they experience the time in their life where they have the most medical care, they're getting it the worst. Greetings, Lord Goon of Gondor.
Greetings.
How was your gooning sesh?
I don't do that.
Oh, good. You're kind of quiet.
I'm quiet.
Yeah, tell me, people, how the audio is. Lord Goon is here. Lord Goon, who does not goon. Did you intentionally not do Goondor?
Yeah, I'm preparing for battle. Do you see? For Minas Tirith.
Oh yeah, your head's in the way. Yeah, there we go. Is there Oliphants out there?
Yeah.
Gigantic elephants.
Yeah, and behind enemy lines, seeking to subvert the enemy.
A subversive Lord Goon.
That's me.
The Goon Lord of Cum. Did you see that that manifesto that I read you earlier? That's fake. It's been debunked.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Okay, that I'm not surprised by that at all because it felt really. It felt like a Redditor wrote it.
Yes, right. I got about halfway through reading it before pleb enforcement in here corrected me, let me know that it had been debunked.
Okay.
So I just read a thread on this old man who his doctor, he was great health and everything, and then his doctor told him he went in for a checkup at 82. His blood pressure was a little high, and so the doctor told him to cut out salt. And then things got worse and worse, and he'd been taking aspirin every day, and his doctor told him after he had open heart surgery, his doctor told him to stop taking aspirin and take ibuprofen instead. and he melted a hole through his stomach from taking ibuprofen for a year, and has completely degenerated. His skin is like his skin just breaks open. He's bleeding. He's got vertigo. He's got like dementia. He's completely fallen off a cliff. And it all started with the doctor telling him to stop eating salt because he had high blood pressure. It's just criminal.
How old was he?
82.
Dude, if he's 82 and he's mobile and he's up moving around, he's in, like, just let him have his salt, dude.
Mm-hmm. Seriously. It's
so what? Like, okay, he has a massive, theoretically, he has a big heart attack and he dies. You know, like, he's 82, and at least he was like, you know, his quality of life up until the end was pretty solid.
Yeah, he's already over the average age.
Yeah.
So he's playing with house money at this point.
Yeah, if you're 82 and you're up moving around and you're in relatively good health, like at that point, you can start smoking, you can start whatever you want to do.
Hookers and blow.
Yeah.
Get addicted to cocaine, you know, just casually.
In fact, the coke might actually do.
That's true.
It might carry a lot of water for you.
Yeah, very pro-metabolic.
Yeah. Rub it on your gums.
Okay, I have got one of the most epic schizo threads ever. Back to the subject of Luigi Mangione. Do me a favor and hit the like button, folks. So this was his.
Yeah, Colin Rocks is at 82. I'm not giving up shit. I might take up some habits. Right. Like,
right.
You're 82. Try it. Why not?
Yeah, it's like if it doesn't work out, oh well. I had a good life. Buy a fast car and speed everywhere.
Yeah, get like the dick extension surgery or whatever.
Start joking.
Did you hear a couple of years ago there was some billionaire who was like 70 years old or something and got like some dick stretching surgery and it killed him? He died on the table.
What a way to go. Oh, man. Yeah, you could start, you could like speed through some school zones and see how many kids you can take out.
Right.
Okay, so this set of 3 images here, this was the banner picture for the Twitter account attributed to Luigi Mangione. And you've got the one you've got the one on the side over here, the thirst trap picture. And then this looks like he's hiking in Hawaii or something, maybe. Then you've got the one in the middle of his X-ray with his lower back surgery. And then on the left here is this Pokemon. Now, I have never had anything to do with Pokemon. But apparently this Pokemon here is Breloom. Is his name. Breloom's Pokédex number is 286. Proverbs 28:6 reads, "Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways." Now, okay, that's kind of interesting. He also has 286 posts on X. Then the insurance denial code for 286. I don't remember exactly what it was because this is a screenshot from the original post, but there's something significant about the insurance code, the denial code 286. His brother, who's a Republican member of the Maryland House of Delegates, follows 286 people on Twitter. This is just getting started. Oh, here's the denial code, 286. It's when the appeal time limits for a healthcare claim are not met. He was caught at a McDonald's 286 miles away from the shooting. What in the hell?
Is that actually true?
Yes.
Okay.
There's more. Okay, so you had 286 posts. This is the news report. Luigi Mangione, 26, was detained at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 286 miles away from the scene of the shooting. This is supposedly his receipt. Now, there's lots of people arguing about this. I don't know how they would have wound up with the receipt. I kind of don't buy that this one's real, but this one has his total is 286, and people were saying the prices aren't right, the sales tax amount isn't right. None of this is right. Yeah, here you go. This is not real. This one here, his Spotify, he had 286 followers on Spotify. And that's the same image there. And then this is him talking about all this. Okay, another one. June 28th, 6/28 is National Insurance Awareness Day. And then you'll never guess the last 3 digits of his postal code in Maryland. His brother in his election got 28.6% of the vote. Elon Musk's birthday is June 28th. So there's people were arguing about this, like different directions gave different distances, but the walking distance, which incidentally would take about 5 days, not that I think he actually walked there, but the walking distance says 286. And anyways, it was the news report that said 286. So either way, you've got a 286 here. There's been more to this getting added. June 28, 2019 is when Super Mario Maker 2 was released. What did Super Mario Maker 2 add? Luigi. So, okay, Spotify account is not his. But there's still a bunch of 286s going on here. This is just leading me even more in the direction that this is some kind of augmented reality game happening.
Yeah, I look at stuff like this when I see things that get like real schizo and people start doing the gematria shit. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that.
Right, I don't either.
It's just like it's an op, I guess.
Yeah, right. But why?
Some people really go down the rat where they're like, you got like the Masons and shit. We're like, they're back there dancing around and pulling all the strings, and I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's see, 286. The digital root of 286 is 16.7, so it's 7. It makes sense that the 286 being the denial code for United Health. Yeah, like so if you start with it, like, why did he choose this Pokemon? Or whoever put this together, why did they choose that particular Pokemon? I don't know anything about that Pokemon. You guys, if you know, you could say if there's some particular characteristic to him that would relate to this. I don't know, his abilities or whatever. But so his Pokemon index being 286 and the denial code being 286, I could see that as being like, okay, so there's a correlation there. And then he intentionally makes it so those 286 tweets on his timeline. I could see a guy who's like totally schizo or whatever deciding to do something like this. But then you start bringing in his brother. His brother's following 286 people, and the votes, he got 28.6% of the vote, and 628 or 28.6 the European way is National Insurance Awareness Day. Now we're getting like, okay, come on. What's happening here? What mean?
What mean indeed.
Bryce says the Pokemon relates to the bad shrooms he dropped to help with his pain, but instead one-shotted him. Yeah. He definitely, the story that's being told here, I want to be clear, I'm disambiguating that from him himself, because I don't even know, who knows how much of this is real. But the story being told here definitely is one of someone going and doing ayahuasca and getting one-shotted by a 6D Mesoamerican demon. Shout out to Landshark.
Landshark. Classic.
Yes. Oh, and actually, you know what? I mentioned this to you earlier.
Yeah, I do. You know
here.
What's
What?
going on with this? Fucking light over here is attacking me.
Are you having boomer tech issues?
Yeah, I need to go get my my nicotine pouches. I'll be right back.
Okay. See if I can find this. A significant thing happened on Twitter today. Those of you who are not on Twitter may not appreciate the significance of this quite as much, but Autism Capital, which is this very interesting little sub community of influencers on Twitter who get regularly boosted by Elon, and they all cropped up right around the time that Elon bought the platform. So they're obviously being used, whether explicitly or just kind of emergently, implicitly, but they're definitely being used for setting narrative. Did he delete it? I was going to read the Landshark tweet here because Elon quote tweeted it. Autism Capital had tweeted it out, and Elon quote tweeted it. Oh, here it is. So we finally gotten Landshark onto Elon's radar. Of course, I'm very sure that Elon has an alt that he plays around with in our little circle, but this is a legendary tweet. There's certain tweets that just go in the Hall of Fame. This one absolutely goes in the Hall of Fame, and Landshark has like a dozen of them. If you don't know who Landshark is, he is a what country is he? Bulgarian?
Bulgarian?
Yeah,
I think he's got more than a dozen. There's another Twitter account that's dedicated just to like posting
the best
all
of Landshark.
Yeah, posting all his bangers
because he's locked. So one unique thing about him is he's a locked account that has probably at this point hundreds of thousands of followers.
I don't think so. He's probably got 50,000.
I think he had 50,000 when I finally got in a long time ago. Anyways,
you know when I got in?
When?
He had 8,000 followers when he let me in.
Wow.
Way back I'm one of the early ones.
You are. You're like
back
me with Oren.
Times. Yeah, that's right.
Pleb Enforcement says, I've been a pending follow request of Landshark for years, still waiting. Well, pleb indeed. You're not like us elites.
That's right.
So this one, he says, so Landshark is bodybuilding, schizo posting, Pete bro, orthodox, very, very interesting person. I'd like exceptionally high IQ, never misses on anything. And he's private, so the only way that you can see his tweets is if people screenshot him, which is why the Best of Landshark account exists. And he routinely tweets bangers like this that get this many views, even though he's private. It's incredible. He says ayahuasca is insane because it appears to be one of the most legitimately dangerous drugs with the potential to gigafry your brain, but is exclusively taken by literal turbo normies who unironically want to like heal internalized racism trauma and basically get one-shotted by it. Literally the most spiritually inept people in existence having their little lib brains rearranged by some Mesoamerican 6D demon who makes them quit their email job, divorce their BF/GF, and become a traveling circus stripper or whatever. I just have to go and read it every so often because it's so good. So Autism Capital tweeted, this is probably one of the top five best tweets ever posted, and Elon quote tweeted it and said, banger. So our boy is on Elon's radar.
Matt?
Yes.
Do you think, this is a theory I have, banger? Do you think we popularized that?
Do you mean we as in you and me, or we as in our little corner of the internet?
More broadly, our little corner of the internet, but like specifically you and me. I've been saying banger for like 2 years now.
You have. That's true. And I know that I didn't popularize it because I got it from other people. But I think it's people in the chat are saying no. I think that it definitely achieved critical mass on our little corner of the internet, and then started bleeding out from there into other places. And because like I've seen people on cable news shows who are saying banger. So I don't know if it came from here or where.
Came from hip hop culture. Well, I have no connection to hip hop culture whatsoever, and I've been saying banger for years. So
you've been saying banger basically as long as I've known you.
That's right.
Well, I'm gonna give you credit. I'm gonna say
I'm just gonna take credit for it. Okay?
Yeah, we're building our own lore. You guys can deal with it. DJs used this term for decades. No, they didn't. Cooper's the one who started it.
That's right.
Everyone got it from Cooper. Okay, so Mike Benz had this great interview with Joe Rogan last week, I think. And in it, he talked about this organization here called the Global Engagement Center. So I'm going to play this clip here. Got to do the little thing to get around copyright, hopefully. But we'll play this, and then there's a little interesting news about this.
This idea that
First of all, Cooper, have you watched this episode yet or listened to it?
I have not.
Oh, it is a must listen. It drained the absolute life force out of Joe. He speaks for a collective maybe 5 minutes, the entire episode's almost 3 hours long. It's just Mike Benz absolutely autism dumping to the max. Obviously Mike Benz has a sketchy background, that didn't work. There we go. But his recall, his ability to keep all this stuff together is insane. So he just goes for 2 hours and 43 minutes, just autism dumping on everything about how the NGOs are basically cutouts for the CIA and MI6 and Mossad. By the end of it, Joe, he ended it really abruptly, and he looked genuinely like deer in the headlights, exhausted. So this is just 5 minutes from that.
ISIS was recruiting on Facebook and Twitter, gave a license to the State Department to create this thing called the Global Engagement Center, which was really the first official censorship capacity in the U.S. government. It predated the DHS stuff that would come along in the Trump era. And this gave the State Department the direct back channel, the direct coordinating capacity with all the social media companies to tell them about ISIS accounts, ISIS narratives that were trending. The Pentagon poured hundreds of millions of dollars into developing a technique called natural language processing, which is a way to use AI to scan the entire internet for keywords. And you would have these academic researchers effectively constructing code books of language. What do ISIS advocates or supporters talk like? What words do they use? What prefixes and suffixes? This whole lexicon is then conjoined with the ingested sum of all of their tweets and transcribed YouTube videos and Facebook posts. And then suddenly the State Department is a real-time heat map of everyone who is likely to be or hits a certain confidence level of being suspected to support ISIS. That was 2014 to 2016, set up by this guy, Rick Stengel, who described himself as Obama's propagandist-in-chief. He's now on the advisory board of NewsGuard, one of the largest censorship mercenary firms in the world. But he described himself as a free speech maximalist because before he started this, he was the Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy. He started this censorship center. He was the former managing editor of Time magazine. And so he's talked about how he used to be a free speech maximalist back when he was in the media, and media companies benefited from that. But when Trump won the election in 2016, he became convinced that actually the First Amendment was a mistake. He actually openly advocated in the Washington Post in an op-ed that we effectively end the First Amendment, that we copycat Europe's laws. And they wrote a whole book on it. This is the guy who started effectively the country's first censorship center. But then they did a really cute trick. They went from counterterrorism to counterpopulism. Now, we've always had this ability since the 1940s to interfere in the domestic affairs of foreign governments or foreign countries, to topple communist countries. This was the whole Cold War counter-communism work of the CIA and the State Department. But that was primarily targeting left-wing communists or left-wing socialists or left-wing populist-run countries. When Trump won the election in 2016, this was one of the reasons I think Republicans were so slow to move on all this. They had never experienced the brunt of the intelligence state against the mainline GOP, or at least the in-power Trump faction of the GOP, in the way that Democrats did in the 1960s and 70s, when the CIA was actively interfering in Democrat Party politics to try to tilt them away from the anti-Vietnam movement and more into the sort of limousine liberal international interventionist neoliberal camp. And so in 2016, the Global Engagement Center pivoted from being counterterrorism to counterpopulism, arguing that right-wing populist governments, it wasn't just right-wing, they were also against left-wing populists, but they simply never rose to power in the way that Trump did in the U.S., Bolsonaro did in Brazil, Matteo Salvini did in Italy, Marine Le Pen almost did in France, Nigel Farage was on his way to in the UK in the Brexit referendum, the AfD party in Germany, the Vox party in Spain. In 2016, they were afraid that social media rising all of these right-wing populist parties to power would effectively collapse the entire rules-based international order unless there was international censorship. Because Brexit would give rise to Frexit if Marine Le Pen won, and she was massively overpowered on social media versus Macron. If, as I mentioned, Italy, there was going to be not just Brexit, there's going to be Frexit, Spexit, Italexit, Grexit, Gorexit. So the entire EU would come undone, which would mean all of NATO would come undone, which would mean there's no enforcement arm for the IMF or the World Bank or international creditors, which would mean it would be like the ending scene of Fight Club, where the credit card company buildings all collapse just because you're allowed to shitpost on the internet. And they talked about that quite openly in 2017 as they were creating this whole censorship infrastructure.
Yeah, I like how periodically you can hear Joe just sighing in the background.
Yeah. So this was 5 minutes. Literally the entire show is just him like talking about this particular agency and then delineating like the people who are on its board, the other connections they have. In this date, they did this thing. Go to this website, pull this up, and scroll down about 2/3 of the way, and you'll see there's a quote that says yada yada yada. It's just 3 hours straight of that, and it's completely mind melting. Yes. So she talks about this global engagement center. I mean, the gist of it essentially is they built up all of this national security apparatus for combating terrorism, and they were like, hey, this works really well for policing speech online, and they imported it essentially wholesale, and this is what was being used to leverage the tech companies, the social media companies, into beginning to police content online. Now, I think I don't know what you'd call it, the victimization of the tech companies, I think, is probably a little overblown.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a legitimate case to be made here that a lot of people have attributed to these tech companies the status of being like true believers in this whole project, when everything he's delineating is showing that by and large, these companies were basically blackmailed or deceived into doing what they were doing. And if you're a tech, you could be just kind of a generic normie guy who's just trying to run a social media platform, and the federal government or some proxy of the federal government shows up and says, hey, if you don't start doing XYZ, then you're going to get the DOJ up your ass. Well, then you're just going to do XYZ. And then if down the line, the opportunity comes where you could be like, I didn't like that all along. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm going to go with whoever is going to protect me from that. That demographic actually becomes fairly easy to capture. So what's very interesting is he did this interview on somewhere around December 1st, something like that. This was posted December 3rd. And this he posted on December 9th. He says, this exact censorship nerve center I talked about on Joe Rogan last week, the State Department's Global Engagement Center, just filed a notice in court that they are substantially likely to shut down in 2 weeks. And so here's what's interesting. This is part of the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire are the plaintiffs versus the Department of State. And the Department of State, the defendants, respectfully file this notice to inform the court of an upcoming development that is substantially likely to occur on December 23, 2024, termination of the Global Engagement Center, with implications for this case. This is filed in the Eastern District of Texas Tyler Division. So that's very interesting. I don't know if the timing is a coincidence or not, but in either case, this has been a pretty, a core apparatus of the deep state for the past several years, and they're making mouth noises about rearranging it. Because I don't think that this is like, oh, we're not going to be censoring anymore. Whatever. They're just, you liquidate the assets of one thing and give them to another thing and continue the process that way. That's part of what's so insidious about this whole NGOs functioning as the actual CIA. Which also is an interesting, perhaps we need to come full circle on the CIA. The CIA has been held hostage by these NGOs. Maybe the CIA are the victims in all of this. Anybody ever think about that?
Yeah, do you ever think about that?
It is. Our good friend of the show, Stormy Waters.
It can't be that hard to start an NGO.
Well, yeah, especially, yeah. We'll just start our own NGO,
and then we can start telling the CIA what to do.
Yeah, we can whip them Find a CIA agent and just whip them with a belt. Put glass and lemon juice on it.
Bad girl.
Oh yeah, that kind of whipping.
Oh. Sorry.
Free the CIA.
There. Yeah.
Stormy Waters has, I've talked for a long time about the Dulles brothers and their significance in the creation of the American national security state.
Mm-hmm.
I read a bunch of biographies about them when I was younger and had generally accepted that they were basically bad guys. And Stormy Waters got me rethinking this with his series on the robber barons, and he mentions explicitly that given the geopolitical state at the time, there was a legitimate movement of what you might call just the WASP elites or the WASP aristocracy in America. Even those who were formerly completely at odds politically, they were joining forces because of a, let's say, foreign influence in the government that they were trying to get rid of. And it was old school WASP American elite law firm, Sullivan and Cromwell, that birthed, in large part, the CIA. So there was American security, American intelligence existed, and it was formalized into the CIA, and then very quickly it was co-opted. It was taken over. And I think this is part of the neoconservative move. When the neoconservatives arose in the mid-1900s, part of what they were doing is they were taking over the anti-communist infrastructure that was built out. Now, the anti-communist infrastructure was built out by legitimate anti-communists who were actually people like John Foster Dulles, who was legitimately ardently opposed to communism and wanted to keep it contained in a way from American industry. And this is how the national security state was built out in the first place. You have American businessmen, and then they want the power of the American government to protect their business interests from being overturned by communist revolutions in other countries. That's where the American national security state was born. And then it was co-opted by Trotskyites, who were communists, but they were internationalist communists, whose greater enemy was not the anti-communists, but the nationalist communists. You get the little bit of mimetic rivalry there, where your most ardent enemy is actually the person that's closer to you. So there's a very interesting revisionist history of the CIA that you could tell here, where the CIA is actually was originally pro-American and then was subverted by Trotskyites. And this corresponds actually to some of the stuff Peter Thiel has said, where his greater concern is not that the CIA is engaged in all this malevolent activity, but actually that the CIA is actually a bunch of kind of bumbling retards, and they can't really do very much because all of their doingness has been outsourced to this complex of NGOs.
Jog.
Yes, jog. That's right. Okay.
JEET occupied government.
The
JQ.
Cooper and I were discussing this earlier. Yeah, the alternate JQ, the JEET occupied government.
JEET question.
Yeah. Have you talked to your kids about the JEET question? So here's an interesting headline from Unusual Whales.
JEET my son.
Covered in shit. Try to decide if I want a bunch of angry JEET comments on the video.
How long does it take for a JEET woman to take a shit? 9 months.
Just reappropriate all of them. Oh man. Yeah, I heard someone say before that people talk about how they smell like their food. And they said it's the other way around. Their food smells like them. I used to work for a moving company in the greater Seattle area, and I can tell you that smell does not go away. You cannot get that smell out of a truck or out of moving blankets or out of your clothes or out of your gloves or out of your straps or your ropes or anything.
I'm guessing like curry sauce, like the seasoning comes from, my picture, like a sweatshop over in India where they just have a bunch of like the lowest caste people riding treadmill bikes, and they've got like a giant hopper underneath catching their sweat, and they're just jarring it up and shipping it to America, putting it in the ethnic foods aisle. Wearing trash bags.
Pedal, Pajit, pedal. This is what the CIA has been up to. Oh, man. JD Vance is no longer a fan of this channel. Yeah, indeed. Okay. So, breaking. The Bank of England will hide the identities of any pension funds, insurers, or hedge funds bailed out under a new financial stability tool to prevent a wider crisis engulfing the economy, per Bloomberg. Bloomberg, indeed.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, Bloomberg, indeed. Yeah. I've been told that the British economy is just fine and dandy. There's nothing wrong here. Why? Yeah, this isn't sketchy. There's no cause for questioning why they might want to hide the identities of anyone bailed out. A new financial stability tool. That's all it is. Just financial stability.
Yeah.
Market-based lending now accounts for 56% of the 1.4 trillion or $1.8 trillion stock of UK corporate debt, he said. Hedge funds are now huge players in gilt markets operating as intermediaries. So this is from this article. The Bank of England will hide the identities of any pension funds, insurers, or hedge funds bailed out under a new financial stability tool to prevent a wider crisis engulfing the economy. The Bank of England will maintain the confidentiality of any pension funds, insurers, or hedge funds that seek support under its new financial stability tool, Deputy Governor Dave Ramsden announced. The measure aims to prevent a broader crisis from destabilizing the economy. Well, I suppose this might be something you would do if you were anticipating a broader crisis.
East
that might
wants to know
destabilize the
what
economy.
Jeep women are.
Jeep women? Oh, no.
Why are you letting Eastwood listen to this?
Kid's gonna learn. If he's listening, I'll tell you. I'll tell you something later.
Okay.
Speaking on Monday, Ramsden explained that the BOE acknowledges concerns raised by shadow banks that publicly disclosing their use of the bailout tool could create a stigma, undermining the effectiveness of the rescue and exacerbating financial instability. Why would there be a stigma? Why might that undermine the effectiveness of the rescue? Why might that exacerbate financial instability? Maybe because people would not like to know who's being bailed out, or who's being bailed out. Does the people being bailed out do not want people to know that they're being bailed out? This reminds me of the speculation from Alex Craner's Substack that I read a while back, a couple weeks ago, where he talked about how close the UK came to going bankrupt. And the how tied up they are with Ukraine, and at that point, he shared an announcement that they'd made that was related to this. Basically, that they needed to be much more open to considering all different types of collateral. And he speculated that you've got a whole bunch of Ukraine bondholders who are going to get absolutely wiped out. And the alternative here might be that you can exchange Ukrainian bonds 1-to-1 for British pounds. That's what's going to be done here.
Uh-huh.
The contingent non-bank financial institution repo facility, which that's very catchy, which will serve as a backstop for the gilt market, is set to launch in early 2025 following a slight delay. Ramsden noted that the gilt market is critical to the UK's financial system due to its scale and interconnectedness. Gilts, as I understand it, are basically the pound version of U.S. Treasuries. The creation of the CNRF reflects the evolving structure of financial markets since the 2008 financial crisis. Historically, only regulated banks had access to the BOE's balance sheet under strict oversight. The tool was developed in response to events like the 2022 mini-budget crisis, when liability-driven investment funds faced severe liquidity challenges. Liquidity challenges. That's not going to get any better. The CNRF will only be activated during extreme stress when gilt market disruptions pose a threat to financial stability that existing banking facilities cannot resolve. Users will be able to exchange collateral, such as gilts, for cash, with a haircut applied to mitigate risks for the BOE. Ramsden indicated the facility might expand beyond its initial focus on insurance companies, life assurers, and LDI funds, potentially including hedge funds. We're starting with these sectors, but it's certainly not where we'll stop. Further phases will follow, he said. So they're creating this tool where they could bail out hedge funds. No wonder they want it. They don't want it transparent. The CNRF builds on lessons from the financial crisis, where concerns about stigma deterred banks from using standard BOE liquidity facilities for fear of appearing financially unstable. To mitigate similar risks, the BOE will not disclose the identity of firms accessing the CNRF. Instead, it will release aggregate borrowing data if the facility is activated. This is
criminal.
It's comically criminal and just blaring red alarms like sirens going off that the UK economy is in dire straits. They are cooked. Deputy Governor emphasized the importance of understanding vulnerabilities such as hedge fund leverage and market concentration to safeguard the financial system. You don't think? The BOE must monitor these developments to manage potential system-wide risks effectively, he said. Oh, these people are fucked.
It makes me think about this is like on par with the idea we had earlier of starting a shitcoin that black people could buy with EBT cards so we could get our money back.
I had a freaking mouthful of energy drink and I had to try so hard not to kill myself. Nigga chain. Here's a related one from Zero Hedge. Current situation serious. VW CEO tells worker labor cost reduction urgent to secure future. The Germans are talking about securing their future, guys. Volkswagen CEO Oliver Blume addressed thousands of workers at the company's Wolfsburg headquarters, emphasizing the urgent need to secure the company's future amid a vicious downturn in the auto industry and intensifying competition. According to the Wall Street Journal, Blume stated that the German auto giant has been streamlining operations and incorporated new synergies, but still faces a bumpy road ahead. He added that reducing labor costs is needed. Automation? The current situation is serious. New competitors are entering the market with unprecedented force. The price pressure is immense, the CEO told workers on Wednesday. He added, in addition, our labor costs in Germany have now become too high. That is why urgent measures are needed to secure Volkswagen's future. In late October, Volkswagen's top labor leader, Works Council Chief Daniela Cavallo, who also sits on VW's supervisory board, was quoted by Bloomberg as saying 3 factories were preparing for closure, and VW was mulling over eliminating thousands of jobs and scaling back pay by 10% and hours. Earlier this week, Wall Street Journal noted that 100,000 workers, or about 33% of the company's total German workforce, staged a labor action across 9 factories amid plant closure and mass layoff threats. We've been extensively covering the dire situation unfolding at Volkswagen this fall. There's a bunch of links here. 5 other articles.
Imagine buying a shit coin with food stamps. It's so funny.
You could call it like Fruit Loops or something.
Like grape Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Also on Wednesday, Works Council Cavallo told workers following Bloom's message that severe headwinds plague VW and the entire auto industry. She hoped for a solution by VW that does not involve factory closures and job cuts. We want to bring this to a good end before Christmas, she told workers. In markets, VW shares in Germany were down 27.5% on the year. 27.5%. trading around 2010 lows. Implementing restructuring the weeks before Christmas would be an absolute PR nightmare. Perhaps these cuts are planned for the start of the new year. And just think about what's going to happen once Trump starts applying these tariffs to protect the American auto industry. If you do not drive a American-made vehicle or a vehicle that's mostly made in America, you may want to get on that because
coin.
Kunta Kinte coin. So relatedly,
Sheet coin.
oh shit,
Jacob coin. That's pretty good.
mm-hmm.
Sorry, I keep derailing.
Oh, you're good. In related news that most people may not necessarily connect for you, but we here will connect it for you. Trump announces he's slashing through red tape for any company that invests $1 billion or more in America. He says, any person or company investing $1 billion or more in the United States of America will receive fully expedited approvals and permits, including, but in no way limited to, all environmental approvals. Get ready to rock. Buy American, hire American. I think you guys can start to connect these dots. Shit's going to get real this next year, especially in Europe. Europe is hosed. Once the debt crisis reaches a tipping point, European markets are just going to get absolutely thrashed, which is going to create incredible political instability. And in the meantime, so you're already going to have a strong push toward capital flight into the US. And then you have the administration positioning themselves to additionally incentivize that capital flight here. You know, I think there's probably going to be, I didn't even read through the comments, it's not even worthwhile to me, but I'd imagine that there are probably people who are talking about like foreign money coming into the United States and buying land or owning assets in the United States, whatever. I want capital flight into the US. It'd be great if it was incentivized for people who are already here, which it is being incentivized for people who are already here, separate from this. I don't care if we're bringing foreign money back into the US because of the effect that it's going to have on the US.
For real, how much money have we given to everybody else for the past forever?
Yes. Please bring it back. Bring back as much of it as possible. I'm going to keep pressing forward here so that we can try to finish as close to in time for people to head off and watch Buck's stream as possible. Here's Eric Trump explaining why Bitcoin is a better investment than real estate. Now, this is very interesting because, number one, if Eric Trump is thinking this way, he's a pretty good representative of the Trump family at large, and so the Trump administration, and
probably knows a thing or two about real estate.
Exactly. You have a real estate mogul talking about why Bitcoin is a better investment than real estate.
Over the last 4 years. Amazing. Well, we really appreciate it, and we appreciate the support of your father. So one of the things that sort of really took me by surprise is just how much I spoke with your brother at Nashville, actually, Don Jr., and we were talking, and I was just amazed at how sort of educated you've become. You really seem to have understood the technology a lot. This wasn't just like, oh, people like Bitcoin, I guess we'll be pro-Bitcoin. It seems like you've really done your homework. What has that process been like for you and your family?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm a bricks and mortars guy. I've spent my entire life walking construction sites, and people always ask, okay, so you build buildings, you build golf courses, you build commercial buildings, you operate these buildings every day. Kind of why the love? Because I think they can hear the real sincerity in our voices, right? Where these aren't sound bites. And if you really look at real estate, it's tangible. You can feel it. It has energy. And when you look at Bitcoin, it's actually very much the same, but it has so many of the counterbalances that might otherwise be considered flaws of real estate. And listen, we're a real estate family. It's what we love. It's what we know. We know it better than anybody. But if you want to talk about a hedge against real estate, I mean, think about something that's immediately liquid. Yep. Right? And that's what cryptocurrency is. If I have a hotel, I can spend 5 years, I can build a hotel. If I want to sell that hotel, it could take me 2 years to sell that property. Now, there are a lot of benefits to real estate. There's a lot of leverage benefits to real estate. There's a lot of tax benefits to real estate. But real estate is illiquid. What's a better hedge to real estate than something that's instantaneously, liquid, right? I mean, what's has more downside protection than something that you can literally fit in a key fob in a ledger in your pocket? You can't move real estate. I can't take Trump Tower on 57th to 5th. It would be tough, right? And move that over to London if London happens to be a better market, or I can't move that to Singapore or the UAE where we are right now. So something that can be transported very easily, right? It's digital currency. It doesn't have fees. There's no brokers. There's no bankers, there's no lawyers, there's no title companies, there's no middlemen, there's no risk of fire, there's no risk of floods or tornadoes or hurricanes, right? I mean, there's a lot of downside protections that crypto can have that real estate, being a tangible hard asset, it doesn't have. And so I look at the two in concert. I look at this being an unbelievable hedge to this. I also look at crypto, as I said before, as something that people can get into who might not have our last name, might not have our balance sheet. I mean,
afford a full building or a house.
Congratulations, 99% of people, and this is no disrespect. They can't go out and build a 70, 80-story building on Fifth Avenue in New York. The entry costs are too high. Not to mention, they'll never find a piece of land, they'll never get it entitled, they'll never get it permitted. But they can put into an asset that historically has actually, over the last number of years, has had significant levels of return higher than most real estate, and that's a beautiful thing. And you take people in developing countries and developing nations, people who otherwise don't have a chance, and crypto actually gives them a chance to invest and a chance to succeed, a chance to maybe get lucky and transform their lives. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's going to be, listen, it's the future. Make no mistake, it's the future. And again, I really believe that the people who embrace it earlier are going to succeed. The people who don't will, as I said before, get left behind.
Yeah. So we're
Colin Ross says 50,000 BTC to buy a house in 2012, 4.3 to buy the average house today. I think a big thing that is there's like this threshold that people are going to have to get over where they stop paying attention to the price of Bitcoin in dollars, and they start looking at the price of everything else in Bitcoin. And it's I can't even do it right now. I do it consciously. But the best I can do is things like this, like comparing the cost of a house in 2012 to now. And if you look at it that way, it's like, holy crap, real estate is plummeting against Bitcoin. Real estate's absolutely tanking. It's like it's supposed to be like one of the most stable assets possible. And here it is absolutely cratering against Bitcoin. Increasingly, what's happening is more and more people are beginning to think that way. And here's the thing about network effects. All it takes is for people to start thinking that way. Once people start thinking that way, then things shift very, very quickly. And this is yet another indicator from the incoming administration that regardless of what anybody else thinks about Bitcoin, this is what they think about Bitcoin. This is how they're forecasting that they're going to act. The biggest thing that's been holding Bitcoin back is regulatory hurdles and the uncertainty around its future, given the position of the United States government to it. The United States government is the most important institution in the world with respect to the future of Bitcoin. If the United States government gives its stamp of approval to Bitcoin, even a tepid stamp of approval to Bitcoin by the United States government, is going to cement Bitcoin's status as a fundamental asset for forever, essentially. Theoretically, you could have, down the line, you could have some new administration that becomes hostile to Bitcoin. But by the time we get there, there's going to be so much institutional investment poured into it that would never happen.
Well, think about this. I'm not like I don't have the technical brain that some people have. So my knowledge about, I understand Bitcoin. I understand all that conceptually. Technically, I can kind of follow along, but I'm not like a developer. I saw a post recently, and I have no idea if this is true. And I'm not sure when it was. It could have been old, so I'm not sure what price they were comparing this to. But in any case, it was something along the lines of like, if you had $2,500 worth of Bitcoin, you're in the top 10% of Bitcoin holders. Like, it really is not that much. And imagine if you were in the top 10% of US dollar holders.
Yeah.
Like, where this, everyone thinks you know, if you feel like you've already kind of missed, you haven't missed. You haven't missed your opportunity. You still got, like, we're still good for now, but things are going to go to the moon pretty quickly here.
Yes.
So, not investment advice, but you should probably get some Bitcoin.
And I'll add too that to me the technology of Bitcoin is more interesting than the price of Bitcoin. Like because this is going to sound really, really it's going to sound very mundane, but it's actually kind of profound. 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin. and it will always be worth 1 Bitcoin, which is it's a very unique characteristic to go with all of the other unique characteristics that it has. 1 Bitcoin is always going to be worth 1 Bitcoin. What's more interesting is what other things are with respect to Bitcoin. And if you track that chart, at this point, it's kind of like, what if Bitcoin can go from 10,000 to 100,000 over the past however long it's taken, it's 8 years or 10 years or something like that. If it goes from 10,000 to 100,000, like, what's your story that you're telling yourself that says Bitcoin can't go to $1 million?
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to drop off all of a sudden. Like, institutional investment is pouring into it now. The incoming administration is extremely pro-Bitcoin. Russia's talking about creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. El Salvador has their Bitcoin strategic reserve. We've got a bunch of U.S. states that are talking about creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. What is how are you perceiving that this is going to all of a sudden Bitcoin's just going to tank suddenly? Like, permanently, not just like it's volatile. So yeah, it drops off and then it picks back up. Like, but what's the story that you're telling yourself where, it got to 100,000, but it's not going to go to 1 million. It's not going to go to 10 million. Some of this just tells me this is just people who are like, I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't understand it. I don't like it.
How long ago was it when Peter Schiff was saying, Bitcoin will never hit 100,000? Oops.
Right.
Is he doubling down, or has he apologized for that?
Yeah. How much money has he lost his clients over the years?
I think he's still riding on the cred from being right about 2008. But see, the thing is, when you predict that every, that, like, when your whole shtick is like, it's the end of the world, like, everything's going to fall apart. Like, I guess eventually you're going to be right. In any case. Yeah, isn't his big thing, like, he's really big into gold? And I have a feeling gold is not going to be doing too hot going forward.
Well, El Salvador just discovered $3 trillion worth of gold, up to $3 trillion worth of gold in El Salvador.
Oh, man.
So add that to the supply. Like,
yep.
See, here's the thing and Michael Saylor is, regardless of what you think about him, he's very good at explaining this. The reason he got into Bitcoin was because he was getting desperate financially, and he was like, what's something stable that I can invest in as a reserve asset? Real estate's got all these kinds of issues, particularly during COVID. Gold, if my goal is to preserve the value that I've created. So I work, I expend energy. I receive value that represents that energy I expended. Now I want to put it somewhere where it will be, in 100 years, it will have the same value that it does now. What asset is going to give you that? There is no asset. Real estate is going to get, when you talk about all the carrying costs for real estate and the lack of liquidity, the difficulty in selling, all these sorts of, like, real estate's not going to hold up over 100 years. If you were anywhere in the world over the last 100 years, your gold would have been seized. So like, who is this here? Vitalaus is the story. Government confiscates it like they did gold. Okay. So it doesn't differentiate itself from gold in that sense. So if you're like, no, Bitcoin's not going to be successful, it's going to be gold instead. Well, gold is getting devalued as more and more people discover gold. If we get to start mining asteroids are full of gold. Like, gold is not going to preserve your value over 100 years. So what is the thing that you're going to invest your money in, your value, the energy that you expended? What are you going to put it into that would last for 100 years? There's only one asset that could conceivably bear that out. And any of the things that you want to critique it on applies to every other asset. It could be seized, it could be taxed, it could be lost. Its value could suddenly change because of some new economic condition or something. Like, these things apply to every single asset. So to me, it's the price of the Bitcoin is actually a secondary interest to me. The actual technological applications for Bitcoin are much more interesting. Like, being able to monetize exhaust, like monetize entropy, the microtransactions, smart contracts, the sorts of things that can be developed off of that. Those are much more interesting to me. But you can't tell these stories separately from each other. The price of Bitcoin is the reason why every major institution is going to maintain a huge stake in Bitcoin, and it's going to become essentially the asset by which all other assets are evaluated. Amazon shareholders have proposed a 5% Bitcoin treasury. And it's interesting, given the things that Bezos has been talking about lately, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some legs on this one. Maybe too early, though. The National Center for Public Policy Research submitted this shareholder proposal to Amazon.com Inc. for consideration at the 2025 annual shareholder meeting. Resolved, shareholders request that the board conduct an assessment to determine if adding Bitcoin to the company's treasury is in the best long-term interest of shareholders. Now, regardless of if this actually happens or not, the conversations are being had about it. A couple of years ago, the conversations would have never even been had. So you can chart this trajectory here. If it's being had now, it means it's just a matter of time until it actually happens. Today, Microsoft shareholders voted against the very same thing. They voted against the Bitcoin investment proposal. And PDB here on Twitter said the risk reward was a no-brainer for Microsoft to have invested in Bitcoin. Total failure. Must be a bunch of old dudes that don't own any Bitcoin. Huge failure by Microsoft. Glad I don't own. By the way, Tesla, my third largest holding, has over $1 billion in Bitcoin since 33K. So, I mean, I find it very much not shocking. Like the Microsoft shareholder does not strike me as the average Microsoft shareholder does not strike me as someone who would understand or trust Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's. I'm going to drop this story out for now. Not super related. This one here, interesting little anecdote about Elon. Unambiguous communication from Elon. Ever since he flew back from Russia and calculated the costs of building his own rockets, Musk had deployed what he called the idiot index. That was the ratio of the total cost of a component to the cost of its raw materials. Something with a high idiot index, say a component that cost $1,000 when the aluminum that composed it cost only $100, was likely to have a design that was too complex or a manufacturing process that was too inefficient. As Musk put it, quote, "If the ratio is high, you're an idiot." What are the best parts in Raptor as judged by the idiot index? Musk asked. I'm not sure, Hughes responded. I will find out. This was not good. Musk's face hardened and Shotwell shot me a worried glance. You better be fucking sure in the future you know these things off the top of your head, Musk said. If you ever come into a meeting and do not know what are the idiot parts, then your resignation will be accepted immediately. He spoke in a monotone and showed no emotion. How can you fucking not know what the best and worst parts are? I know the cost chart down to the smallest part, Hughes said quietly. I just don't know the cost of the raw materials of those parts. What are the worst 5 parts? Musk demanded. Hughes looked at his computer to see if he could calculate an answer. No, don't look at your screen, Musk said. Just name one. You should know the problematic parts. There's a half nozzle jacket, Hughes offered tentatively. I think it cost $13,000. It's made of a single piece of steel, Musk said, now quizzing him. How much does that material cost? I think a few $1,000s, replied Hughes. Musk knew the answer. No, it's just steel. It's about $200. You have very badly failed. If you don't improve, your resignation will be accepted. This meeting is over. Done. Whew. Who wants to sit in that work meeting?
I would actually have been able to answer that question. I do know a thing or two about steel.
That's true. You do. You're smarter than this guy.
I could be that guy.
Yeah.
Elon, you want to give me a job?
He might, you know? You just got to get in front of him. Pleb Enforcement says, seeing this convo made me think Doge can work. That was... Your mind went the same place that mine did. And so, on that note, another appointment was announced. Donald Trump says, I am pleased to announce that Mark Paoletta will be returning as General Counsel of the Office of Management and Budget. Mark will work closely with our Doge team to cut the size of our bloated government bureaucracy and root out wasteful and anti-American spending. So we're starting to get an idea, I think, of how the Doge is going to work. Mark is a brilliant and tenacious lawyer who worked tirelessly to advance my agenda in the first term. As OMB GC in my first administration, Mark led the charge to identify funding to build the southern border wall and worked with then OMB Director Russ Vought to rein in woke and weaponized government spending. Mark is a partner at the law firm, blah, 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 Okay. He was a key lawyer in the White House counsel's office to confirm Justice Clarence Thomas to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1991. So Mark Paoletta was one of the rumored candidates for Attorney General. Vivek says Mark Paoletta will be a great partner to Doge within OMB. And here, this is... So I did a little look into his career. And so he served as general counsel of the OMB. Prior to this, he was chief counsel and assistant to Vice President Mike Pence from January 20th, 2017 to January 5, 2018. He's a close friend and associate of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife, conservative activist Jenny Thomas. He helped participate in Justice Thomas's successful confirmation of the Supreme Court in 1991. Following the January 6th United States Capitol attack, Paoletta represented Jenny Thomas's interactions with the United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. Throughout his legal career, he specialized in representing clients in congressional investigations. So I've mentioned here on the show before, the first interview that Sean Ryan did with Vivek, Vivek talked about the importance. He said two of the most important roles in the next administration are going to be the directors of OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, and OPM, the Office of Personnel Management. Those are basically like he said it's like the budgeting department, like the accounting department and the HR department for the executive branch. The way this is shaping up now, based on the people who've been put in particular roles here. So you got Russ Vought, who's going to be the director of OMB. He has a very good conversation with Tucker Carlson that you should absolutely go listen to. Very much one of our guys. He is one of the key authors on Project 2025 and is Heritage Foundation, Hillsdale. He's from that little nerve center. And
Hillsdale isn't like Hillsdale College?
Yeah.
In Michigan?
Yeah.
There's some people at my parish who teach at Hillsdale.
Really?
I'm like an hour and a half from Hillsdale. Maybe not even that.
So you could just go be part of Project 2025.
I could probably do that.
Yeah, go get a job in the executive branch and
I could do that.
Serve your president. Your president needs you. You're his top guy.
That's right.
Yeah, Russ Vought is a good dude. So Russ Vought is going to be the head of OMB. OMB is going to be working directly with Doge. And then Mark Paoletta, who is close friends with Clarence Thomas, is going to be general counsel of the OMB, who will work closely with the Doge team to cut the size of our bloated government bureaucracy. So Doge is going to be identifying these opportunities for cutting things and working with Mark Paoletta to figure out the legal way of doing this. And then Russ Vought, who's going to be the head of OMB, which has a tremendous amount of power to actually legally, functionally maybe another question, but legally, OMB has a tremendous amount of power to actually manage and control spending allocations within the and personnel within the executive branch. So we're starting to get a little bit of a picture here to how this is going to work. The Doge being a separate entity. Basically, we've got an NGO. We've got our NGO now. The Doge is going to do all the legwork, and not being part of the government may actually be a benefit to them in some cases here. But they're going to be working hand in glove with Russ Vought and Mark Paoletta, with Vivek and Elon and the other people involved in that, to pursue the Doge agenda. So my expectations are measured but optimistic. It seems like we've got some real, some competent people on the job. As competent as they could be. Okay, next story.
Welcome, Kyle. Lindskog.
Indeed, we've got an ex-commenter.
Are you a Dutchman?
Lindskog.
What is Lindskog?
That looks Norwegian or Swedish to me. My guess is Swedish. I'm gonna guess Swedish. Kyle, narc on yourself for us. Please dox.
Yeah. Let me know what your social security number is and your credit card information.
Yeah.
Please.
Your home address.
Yeah, right.
So the Daily Wire is on track to surpass $200 million in revenue this year and was last valued in its last funding round at more than $1 billion, Sarah Fisher reports. So, okay. Axios Media Trends. Oh, fuck off. Let me hold on. This is you seriously gonna make me sign in? You didn't make me do this on the phone. Whatever.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to read this article here, but it's free, but it wants me to give it my email address, so I just gave it an email address.
The way people ruin their websites, man.
Yeah, right.
Pop-ups and that's what we should do for all of our business ventures. We just make really obnoxious websites.
Drown people in like really lewd ads and pop-ups.
Local sluts want you, you know.
The Daily Wire is looking to possibly partner with a larger company or raise a significant round of capital next year to meet its growth ambitions, its co-CEO Jeremy Boring told Axios, the most aptly named person of all time, by the way. Why it matters. The company's commercial success has caught the attention of investors and potential buyers to gain a foothold in the younger conservative culture. Semaphore reported Sunday that Fox Corp was eyeing potential acquisitions of conservative podcast companies, including Daily Wire. Asked about a deal with Fox, Boring said the company isn't actively looking for a buyer, but we're not closed off to an offer. It's easy to imagine a strategic partnership with Fox or someone like Fox that could be mutually beneficial. I think that we complement Fox and don't compete with Fox, he added, noting Daily Wire's audience is primarily younger and more coastal urban. I would say that Fox buying out Daily Wire might be how it works on paper, but it would be much more like Daily Wire buying out Fox, honestly. By the numbers, the Nashville-based company, which is on track to surpass $200 million in revenue this year, would come with a hefty price tag. Daily Wire raised an undisclosed round of capital in 2023 at a valuation well north of $1 billion, a source told Axios. The firm was initially funded by Republican fracking billionaire Ferris Wilks, but until its latest raise, it relied mostly on its profits to fuel its growth. The Wilks brothers are very interesting characters if you ever want to read about some very weird guys. They're Jews for Jesus.
Oh, really?
Characters, yeah. There's Ferris and Dan. I don't remember the other guy's name. One of them is like the minister of one of their local weird ass super. They're like turbo Zionists, like turbo Zionist weird Protestants. Who have also had long meetings with our favorite gay Mexican.
My mom the other day was asking me what the difference between like Messianic Jews and Orthodox Christianity was, and I'm like, because like my mom, bless her heart, total boomer con, you know.
The boomers are noticing.
Yeah, and she started like she's asking the right questions for the wrong reasons, and I'm like, you know, trying to steer that ship. It's not even worth it.
What did you tell her?
I said, she's like, what's the difference between Messianic Jews and like Orthodox Christianity? And I'm like, well, they're not part of the church.
Yeah, right. One of them is Christian, the other one is not.
Yeah, right.
It's in the name. Messianic Jews.
Right.
The bigger yarmulke. Okay. The firm was okay, I already read that. In addition to subscriptions, the firm makes money from advertising and e-commerce. This is interesting reading about this business model here, Cooper. Earlier this year, its star podcaster and co-founder Ben Shapiro testified on Capitol Hill as part of a broader fight to get ad agencies not to dismiss conservative media. Boring said conversations with Fortune 500 advertisers have opened up enormously since. If your name was Boring, like I feel like you would change it. What's his middle name? Wouldn't you just go by your first and middle name? Even if your middle name was like Bob, you know, like I'd rather be Jeremy Bob than Jeremy Boring.
What if his middle name is like Jew Lover?
Jeremy
like,
Jew Lover Boring.
That's why he goes with Boring.
Like you own a media company, dude. How do you go by the name Boring? The company made more than $22 million on commerce
Bond
sales.
Jeremy?
Holy crap. Bond Jeremy. Jeremy Fragrance. The company made more than $22 million on commerce sales in 2023. This year, it will make more than $20 million on its Jeremy's Razors business alone, Boring said. Mayflower Cigars, its cigar startup, has grossed $4.2 million in sales since it launched last November. I can't imagine that those cigars are any good. We'll have to get our cigar aficionados to weigh in.
22 million on razors?
Yes, more than 20 million on its razors business.
That is something suspicious there. Are boomers really just buying like Jeremy's razors to own the libs because of the Gillette
Well,
ad?
this is Daily Wire, so it's
I know.
young dudes. I would imagine.
I guess. What, guys?
Why are you shaving?
And if you
Stop
are
shaving,
just get a safety razor. It's like $10, and you can get a whole stack of freaking razor blades for like, I don't know, $2, and that'll last you the rest of your life.
and then you don't have to give your money to Jeremy Jew Lover.
To Bon Jeremy.
CG Constantine says the cigars are made in Nicaragua. Interesting. So they've got their little like Nicaraguan slaves out there wrapping their cigars for them. Like many modern media companies, the Daily Wire has started to pivot its focus away from social media and more toward its owned and operated channels. The big strategic change for us is that we think a big part of the future now is in actually becoming a destination, Boring said. What we want to do over the next 3 years is really grow the percentage of the audience that engages with our content on our platform. For many years, Daily Wire was the top publisher on Facebook. It used that audience to build narrow subscription products. The company's streaming service, Daily Wire Plus, has well over 1 million subscribers, Boring said. This year will be its biggest in terms of gross subscription additions since it launched in 2021. Next year, Boring says the company will expand its podcast suite and will add more focus to its children's subscription entertainment platform, BentKey. Despite their political differences, Boring says he's taking cues from the New York Times. It's an unbelievable success, and it shows us that there's a path of serving an audience on platform and not being completely at the mercy of the social partner. What to watch? Most of Daily Wire's content today is focused on news analysis and entertainment, but looking ahead, Boeing said the firm wants to invest more in original journalism. We think that there's a real opening for us.
Question, Matt.
Yes.
Hypothetical. We are approached by the Daily Wire, and they say, hey, we want to give you a bunch of money, and we want King Pill to be on the Daily Wire, but you can't talk about the Jews. Would you take the money?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah, I would take the money. I would sell you out in a second.
Yes. See, King Pilled is me, and I don't want my face on Daily Wire. Now, if I could sell the King Pilled brand and then have nothing to do with it, I would absolutely cash out.
Does that mean I own like half of you?
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah.
Okay, I'll sell my half of you.
We have to find out if the Daily Wire wants to be partners with me, and then maybe we could talk.
I'd be like, yeah, give me a whole bunch of money. Here you go. And then I would tank the show, and then I'd take all that money that I got, all my 30 pieces of silver, and I'd run over and start a new thing.
Actually, you know what I would do? I would take the money, and the very first show I did, I would interview Candace Owens.
Yeah.
And talk about Jews.
Yeah, Candace Owens, and then David Duke, and then E. Michael Jones, and just go down the list. Milo. All the people that they hate.
That would actually be pretty fun. Guarantee you're gonna get I get sued. Yeah, Kanye.
Hortler.
Yeah, it'd be fun to interview Hortler. Do like an AI.
Yeah, like a large language model of Hortler.
Yeah. What if the Blaze approached you? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
If anybody approaches me and wants to give me a bunch of money, I'm gonna take it. Sorry. I'll take the money. I'll look in the camera. I'll wink, so you guys know I'm taking the money. And hey, I'll spread it around. I'll share the love. We'll go start our own thing.
Yeah,
we'll start an NGO.
Yeah, and then we'll create our nigga chain, EBT card eligible shitcoin.
Yeah, our Kwanzaa coin. And we'll get our reparations back.
That's right. We need them reparations. We've been harmed. We need to secure the future of our people. Did you see this?
No.
Gwen Stefani.
Is that the chick who is that like the? Is she an actress?
Singer, no doubt.
Singer. Okay.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of?
There's lots of actresses. I don't know.
Who's the one who plays Iron Man's wife or whatever? I don't know anything about Marvel.
Oh,
Gwen something.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Someone's gonna say it. There's someone. Who is it? I can see her face in my head.
Gwyneth Paltrow. That's right.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah. Gwyneth.
Guinevere.
Gwen Stefani invites fans to pray with her in the days leading up to Christmas and celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. So she is now an advertiser for Hallow, the Catholic prayer app. Yes. So here's what she says here.
Christmas season has always been my favorite time of the year. It's a season that we get to celebrate the birth of our Lord. This year, I'm excited to share that I've partnered with this amazing prayer, meditation, and music app called Hallow on their 25-day prayer challenge leading up to Christmas.
She's got big
called
goofy
Advent
teeth.
Pray 20.
What?
She's got big goofy teeth.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fake. Look at those nails.
Yeah.
Oh, those nails are so gross.
Yeah.
Did you see?
You can hear her clicking on her phone while she's like rolling on Instagram.
I cannot stand those nails. Like anytime I see those long ass fake looking nails on a chick, it is I imagine it's like if a chick sees a dude with a cum stain on his shirt or something. Like it just it's just absolutely a turnoff.
Like up on his chest.
There was a video or a picture that I posted in the Discord the other day of a guy standing in line at Chipotle wearing a t-shirt that it was like stuck together on the back, folded over, because he used it as a cum rag and then pulled it out and put it on. And someone took a picture of it and posted it and said something about like what happens when you get dressed in the dark.
Get like a gray stain every. Oh God!
Did you see this, Gwyneth Goontro?
25. Join me and millions of other Christians around the world as we celebrate together the truth that God so loved the world that he gave us his only son. Download Hallow and join me in praying every day. God bless.
Now, apparently, a lot of people were talking about this, that part of the Gwen Stefani lore is apparently she has been a devout, every Sunday church-attending Catholic since the 90s. Like the whole time she's been famous, big pop star and everything. She's always been a devout Catholic, which is interesting. So there's that one. Then there's this one. Old Glory Club says, we are going to win. Not a prediction, not a comment. We are going to win. Is Josiah watching?
Who is that? Oh! That's Lana.
That's Lana. Listen to what she has to say about her.
Yeah. I haven't checked in on Lana since the Fat Lana arc.
Yeah.
So she looks a little different.
Yeah. The whole internet got depressed for a while during the Fat Lana arc.
It's like Ozempic Lana.
Here's her with her new husband wearing the MAGA hat.
What the fuck is going on there, man?
So he is
cleans up well.
What's that?
I said he cleans up well.
Yes, he's an alligator tour guide. He's an alligator tour guide in the swamps in like Louisiana, I think. Jeremy Dufresne. So this is her talking about her Trump supporting now husband.
He's a big reason why I waited so long to get married and why I met my amazing husband. And I really feel like there's kind of a singer's curse around like meeting an honest partner who has no skin in the game, no dog in the race. And it's super nerve-wracking to have to kind of hold on to an innocent perception of how things could go when you're in an industry where maybe your values and your morals don't quite match up with what's going on.
Oh, it's an interesting little admission there. In an industry where your values and morals don't match up with what's going on, so you go find a MAGA boyfriend.
All the hipster chicks I went to school with BTFO'd right now.
Oh yeah, they're so upset.
I don't. Didn't like her husband didn't he divorce his wife to marry her?
That I don't know.
Okay.
But she is. What is the? It's like SSRI music.
Yeah,
like
right.
her and Billie Eilish and
like Charlie XCX and Claro, and they've got the I've been calling it Zanny Pop.
Oh yeah, Zanny Pop. Yeah. Yep.
Your eyes are glazed over, and you got these kind of binaural beats that are like drones and very hypnotic, and it's both kind of interesting. It's really interesting music, and it's also there's something really unsettling about it.
Yeah, it usually it's very layered and complex and atmospheric, and
but it's cool, but
it also sounds like it was created by a chick on Xanax.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting there like ODing and Satan's crawling up on your chest saying, just go to sleep. You're like, you're trying to fight it.
Yeah. You're like having a, what do you call it? When you're, like you're awake, but you're dreaming and you can't move.
Like sleep paralysis?
Yeah, sleep paralysis. You're having a sleep paralysis episode, and some Mesoamerican demon is climbing in the window after you.
Do you ever
just sing through it, bitch?
Do you have any good sleep paralysis stories?
No, never experienced it. Don't want to.
Horrible. Yeah, it's horrible. I've experienced it a couple of times.
I think you told me about that. Like, I don't know if you want to talk about the details of some of the dreams you've had, but they're dark.
No, I'll spare you some of the worst dreams, but like the sleep paralysis one. Okay, so this one's kind of funny. At the time, I was mortified, but so I'm laying in bed, and it's kind of you're in that half state where you're kind of half awake, kind of half asleep, where it's like you're conscious, you can kind of think and stuff like that, but yeah, you're locked there, you can't move. And I'm laying on my back, looking down at the foot of my bed, and for whatever reason, my door is open to the bedroom, and I can just see the dark hallway, which I'd never do that. I would never sleep like that. What kind of psychopath would leave their door open to the dark hallway while they're trying to sleep? Not me. Turns out my wife left it open when she came to bed. So I'm like half awake looking down the dark hallway, and I realize like I can't move. And then there's like this humming sound. And it's like slowly increasing in pitch. And then I see like fucking Slender Man walking towards me from the hallway.
Nope.
And the second he gets to the foot of my bed, I jerk awake. We're okay. I doze off, and then I open my eyes. And the humming's back. And Slender Man's walking down the hallway towards my feet.
Ah!
And this happens like 4 times before he finally gets to the bed. The last time he finally gets to the bed, I get dragged out by my feet down the hallway, and then I'm just like in the movie Poltergeist. I'm just like, whoa, flying around my living room. And then I wake up, and I'm actually awake, and I can move again.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Do not want. Dennis Potter says worst sleep paralysis demon is Steven Seagal.
I might like that.
Write that one down.
Okay.
Steven Seagal sleep paralysis demon. Okay, so I got one more here, or actually 2 more related stories to the Lana and Gwen Stefani. Mariah Carey renounces Queen of Christmas title as she believes the mother of Jesus is more deserving. She says that title belongs to Mary. You guys recognize? You guys could see the theme here, obviously. Jason Miranchuk.
Nestorians.
That's a good nerd joke. Jason Miranchuk is more validated by the day. So she, oh my God. See, here's exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, look at that website.
Let me close it.
You need like an ad blocker, dude.
I had to turn the ad blocker off to actually open it because it wouldn't let me view it unless I allowed ads. Please allow us to make your experience shittier.
Yeah, right.
Please agree. We're going to make this whole thing a lot shittier in just a second. Ah! She became known as the Queen of Christmas after releasing the infectious 1994 track, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Yet Mariah Carey has insisted she never chose the festive moniker herself and believes the title should be bestowed upon the Virgin Mary. Speaking on the Zoe Ball breakfast show, I'm never going to watch that in my life. Mariah, 52, spoke out about her love of the holidays as she discussed her new track, Fall in Love at Christmas, and her new venture into writing children's books. The singer explained.
That guy, that ad. He looks like he got hit in the head with a hammer. What's up with his skull shape? I need to study him for science.
Yakubian ape. The singer explained, that was other people, and I just want to humbly say that I don't consider myself that. I'm someone that loves Christmas, that happened to be blessed to write All I Want for Christmas Is You, and a lot of other Christmas songs, but let's face it, everybody's faith is what it is, but to me, Mary is the Queen of Christmas. So, there you go. Yes, the Neotrads are on the march, and as Jason said here, the anti-Diddy pivot will formalize the Neotrads, which is something he mentioned on one of his streams the other day that he's anticipating, and I agree with him, that you're going to see as the Diddy thing gets more and more revealed, there's going to be a big backlash from it, and that's going to drive people right into the Neotrad camp because all of the people who were not associated with that are going to want to make a big show of being like, I wasn't in that at all. That wasn't me. I'm as far away from that as you can get. See, look at me with all of my wholesome Christian content. Mm-hmm. And then very last one on this subject of the Neotrads is perhaps the archetype, the leading Neotrad.
I've seen this one coming for a while.
Uh-huh.
We talked about this like 2 months ago.
Shout out to Wyman. The Young Turks Anna Kasparian joins me, this is from Glenn Beck, for an honest conversation about the corruption of the Democratic Party. So there's a clip here I'll play for you guys. And perhaps this is, maybe the blaze isn't going to be coming for me, it's going to be coming for Anna Kasparian.
I can definitely be honest about my own flaws and my own mistakes because I bought the mainstream media narrative that
There he is. Josiah said, I called base Lana Del Rey pre-2020. No cap.
Yeah,
I believe him. I believe him.
Well, we were there.
Yep, we can confirm.
I think I'm the one who put that thought into your head, Josiah. Because I suggested to you way back when that she was crypto-trad, I think was the term I used at the time. And you were like, interesting thought. So you can thank me later.
Now I kind of want to get on a VC and let the two of you duke this out. Mortal enemies. You guys haven't had a good fight in a while.
That's right.
We need to set one up. Set up an online brawl between Cooper and Josiah.
I can definitely be honest about my own flaws and my own mistakes because I bought the mainstream media narrative that there wasn't a migrant crisis.
Really?
And yeah, I did believe it. I believe because, look, I was an idiot because, I mean, who do you trust in today's media landscape, right? There's a lot of liars out there.
Yeah,
and when it comes to mainstream media, the fact of the matter is they do play defense more and more for the Democratic Party. And that's an issue because there was a time when that didn't happen. And so I still believed in their good faith reporting, even though it turns out, a lot of these reports would omit really important details about what's really going on. And so it wasn't until Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing or sending migrants to blue cities where that woke me up. That woke a lot of people up. And suddenly America realizes, oh, there is a migrant crisis.
Why did that wake you up?
Well, because all of a sudden you're seeing migrants sleeping on the floor in the police department in Chicago because they don't have shelter for these people, right? You're seeing, these. I love watching streams of city council meetings because that's how you understand what's really going on in these cities, right? These are real people who live there and they get their opportunity to speak.
Chicago's been an amazing thing to watch.
Wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch every city council meeting from Chicago because it's
crazy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And for me, rather than relying on mainstream media reporting or anyone's reporting, to be quite honest with you, what I'll do is I'll go out of my way and I'll watch, the entirety of a government function, local government function. I talk to real people and I get a sense of where hearts and minds really are. And so on election night, I wasn't surprised at all. I knew it was coming. I totally knew it was coming. I knew that Cook County was going to swing, I think it's about 8 percentage points toward Republicans. I knew LA County, and this is what I was surprised about. I did not expect Donald Trump to flip 10 counties in California from blue to red. But I guess I shouldn't have been surprised about that either. Because when you look at the conditions that people are living in a Democrat-controlled state, well, yeah, you can understand why people are turning their backs on the Democratic Party. You can understand why people are frustrated at the corruption, at the loss of $24 billion that was allocated to help the homeless, when homelessness only exploded during that time, and that money is now unaccounted for. It was funneled to nonprofits whose executives get paid minimum $200,000, $250,000 a year, and they have multiple executives who are making at least that or more. And you just see the waste, and you see the real grift. And so for people out there who are concerned about the grifters, take a good hard look at the systemic grifting that's happening right now. It's disgusting.
Oh, it's so hard for me to hear women talk.
You know what it's not hard to listen to is Glenn Beck talk. I saw Brent in here said he said he loves Glenn's voice. I was sitting there thinking the same thing. I felt like when the camera was on her and he was going, I felt like he was inside my head. Just this resonance.
I remember I would, when I'd be working, and sometimes I just skim through AM radio or something, and I don't know why, but Glenn Beck was on like every other AM radio station in my area, so I just listened to him. I don't remember anything he talked about, but he's nice to listen to.
Brent Taylor says this is the perfect frame for talking to a woman. Yeah, that's true. JG says a neocon is born. I got to take issue with this. Anna Kasparian is not a neocon. She is not ever going to be a neocon. Her like defining trait on the left was her willingness to be critical of Israel from the left. There is no point whatsoever that she's ever going to identify with neoconservatism. Now, normie conservatism, which is influenced by neocons, like I could see that, but I think that this whole thing is, I don't get the sense from her that this is a grift. I think that she sincerely believes what she's talking about. I mean, I've played several clips of her on here over the past several weeks of her coming around to this, and I think it's sincere for her. Now, it's very easy for her to like the slide is greased for her to slide right down this because a hot lefty woman gets based is like total. It's like total bait. Like everyone wants to see the hot lefty woman who got based. So that makes it a lot easier. But I think this change for her is authentic, and it represents the change that a lot of people have had. She stands for or speaks for a lot of people, and the sorts of things she's talking about now, the fact that she's talking about them makes it a lot safer for other people too. So she's a leading indicator in this Neo-Trad direction, which I don't think is necessarily like a critique of her sincerity. I think she could part of this, the Neo-Trad thing. I'll speak for myself, my understanding of Jason. Part of this Neo-Trad thing, it's like you've got the predominant spirit of it, but contained within that there's going to be the cynical side of it, the people who are just grifting on it. There's going to be the people who are genuinely sincere in their move, like I think she is. She's genuinely actually being red-pilled or whatever you think. And then there's going to be the bulk of people who just are following along with the trend. Go listen to Jason on Miranchuk now if you want to know more about the Neotrads. Tyler says she could go lefty populist route and follow Tulsi and RFK. I think that's probably, I think what we're seeing with Anna Kasparian, you take Anna Kasparian, Tulsi, RFK, I think that sort of person is that's the new center. Like that's the mainstream. That's going to be the mainstream center position. It's increasingly already, but everything is going to move that direction. I think that'd be my prediction for by 2026, probably. May even be sooner than that. When you think about mainstream, generic, normie view of the world, the most popular, what represents like 60 to 80% of people, I think it's going to center in around the Anna Kasparian, RFK, Tulsi type of people. Former lefties who are now, they're anti-regime as it is right now, but they're not like, you wouldn't call them right-wing, really. Jason says the Neotrads are inherently insincere. Yeah. And what I'm saying is my understanding of this is the way the Neotrad, as this umbrella emerges within that move, that shift that happens. Part of the reason why that shift is going to happen is because there's going to be the insincere people, which is going to be, there's like the grifters. Then you've got like the normies who are just doing it because it's popular, not necessarily because they believe in it. And then carried along with that is going to be the people who are actually sincere.
Why do you capitalize the Z?
I think because of, until he answers, so there's not dead air, I'll say, I think it's because of a combination of Gen Z and, the Gen Z Zoomers, and it's happening with I think he's identifying this as happening within the Zoomers, being the predominant generation that this carries forth with it. Yeah. All right. Very last clip of the day from Powerful Mutual, Indian Bronson. He says, none of the hustle content on LinkedIn compares to Trump saying never quit. So our president has a message for you guys. I'll leave you with this, and then you can go over and watch Buck. I'm going to drop the link so you guys can click on this link, and as soon as I play this and give you guys Hulk, then you can go over and watch Buck and Stormy. But your president has a message for you. You must listen. Cooper, are you listening to your president?
I'm here.
You're his top guy, right?
Standing by.
He needs you.
I don't know if it's an ability or if you have it, just you can't quit. And I've seen people quitting. And if they would have held out longer, they would have been successful. I've seen it so much. I've seen some of the most brilliant people in the world that never made it because they were quitters. Never, ever quit. I don't know.
Never quit. Don't be a quitter.
It's my president.
President's not proud of you when you're a quitter. Don't you want your president to be proud of you?
I do.
Never quit.
I like how we thought of that at the exact same time.
All right, guys, hit the like button. Go over and watch Buck and Stormy, and then go watch Jason tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Astrolabe. And for now, I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next President of the United States, enough was enough!